Hi, my name is Beth. I am a mother of 7. I am a student of scriptures, but most importantly, I'm a servant of God. And I don't want to start any crazy rumors here, but did you know that sometimes moms get a little bit over worried about stuff? Fear seems to come really easy to moms. I was talking with some friends, other mom friends, and they were saying, yeah, I never used to be afraid. And then I had kids. And I think that that's pretty common. When we're just taking care of ourselves, we don't have to be as stressed out. We don't have to be as worried. We can eat cereal for dinner. But then we have kids and we're like, if they don't eat from all the food groups at every meal, they're just going to not thrive and they'll get rickets and stuff. So we start to worry about stuff. Some things are reasonable worries, like, is my child treating each other kind? Is he treating his friends kindly? Or I hope he gets good grades in school. I want to help him with this. And then we have our unreasonable fears, like my child will never eat a vegetable and will end up with scurvy. We think about stuff like that, don't we? So valid or not, fears, they get into our brain, they get into our heart, and we start to kind of let them take over. It's like this fear train. Once it starts gaining momentum and it starts to leave the station, it's just like going really, really fast and really, really hard. And it's really hard to stop it once the fear train gets going. A friend this last weekend quoted her mother, and she said, "My mother always says, if you feed your faith, then your fear will starve." And we know that if we dig into the fears, it does not lead us to a good place. So I would not mind a solution to that. So feeding our faith. It's interesting because I hadn't really thought of those two things as opposites, fear and faith, but it's in Scripture. So check this out. In Mark chapter 4, starting in verse 35, it says, "On that day, when evening came, he said to them," he being Jesus, "let's go over to the other side of the Sea of Galilee." Leaving the crowd, they took him along with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And there arose a fierce gale of wind. It was a dark and stormy night. And there arose waves breaking over the boat, so much that the boat was already filling up. And Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on a cushion. And they woke him, and they said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" I don't want to be too hard on the disciples. They were professional fishermen, so they knew the difference in between a dangerous storm and a less than dangerous storm. If they're panicking, it had to have been a pretty bad storm. So they woke him up and said, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he got up and he rebuked the wind. And he said to the sea, "Hush, be still." And then the wind died down and became perfectly calm. And he said to them, "Why are you afraid? Don't you have any faith?" They became very much afraid and said to one another, "Who is this? Even the wind and the sea obey him." Why are you afraid? Don't you have any faith? He rebukes the storm, and then he rebukes his disciples because apparently he identified that they had let their fear get in front of their faith. So what is faith? Faith is calling to mind all the things that God has done in the past. It's looking into Scripture and saying God was faithful and he was present with the children of Israel in the beginning of Exodus when he brought them out of Egypt. God was faithful to Ruth and Naomi and provided a support system for them in a husband in Boaz. God was faithful to King David and walked with him even through his missteps. God was faithful when he sent his son to come to this earth to walk with us and talk with us and heal us and feed us and show us that he was the solution for our sinful nature. God was faithful when he sent a comforter to walk this earth with us so that we could have the Spirit of God living inside of us. God has been faithful over and over again throughout Scripture. And he has been faithful over and over again in our own experience. We can look back at the times of our life where it's been a crazy situation and God walked with us through the whole thing. It's amazing when you start to feed that, how it just brings hope into your perspective, and it brings life into your perspective, because we know what happens when you get on that fear train. It just brings you down, and it just causes worry, and it causes you to just shrivel up. But when you start to focus on your faith, and you start to focus on all the things that God's done for you, it builds you up. Feed that faith, because that's a much better choice than feeding the fear. And it's not a one and done thing. It's a process, and it's a choice, and it's one that you got to keep making over and over again, because that fear train just wants to leave the station. But if you focus on your faith and focus on the faithfulness of God, there's nothing left for that fear. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.